It's really an honor to be here out of the many different talks that I get to do, talking to other business owners and kind of being able to look at things from the same perspective is a real honor. So I'm very happy to be here today. There is some information on a handout that's there with regard to who we are and where you can find us online. We're obviously in a number of places. And let's see here, Blake. Where's the big screen? All right, here we go. So we appreciate everybody that participated in the SurveyMonkey yesterday. That was good. That kind of helps us understand who's here today. And so just kind of sharing with you the results that we got back, looking at who's who. This big blue piece of pie right here is folks in here that participated that are on Facebook. Then this big green wedge over here is LinkedIn. Lower on down is Twitter, Flickr, YouTube. So that's where we are. The thing that Pearson was just talking about is that fan page over on Facebook, and you can get there by going to facebook.soememphis.com. So we made that a little.
I'll be my fans this afternoon.
Yeah, please be fans. There's updates in there, probably, at least every other day, new information that's going out there. We're also working on the new Society's website. And so the part of the Facebook page, part of that information we're going to use as a feed and pull that into the regular website as well. So we'll talk about that momentarily. But then, looking at one of the big challenges that we get is people want to know, gosh, how much time do I need to put into this? I already don't have any time, and now I'm supposed to make more time for the social stuff. And it can depend on the size of your organization. You may have somebody who can wear that hat, and that's all they do. In fact, there's a new job out there. There's a new occupation out there called a community manager. So you may be large enough to have a community manager. If not, it may be another hat that one of your folks winds up wearing, or multiple people wind up wearing a community manager hat in your organization. So it looked like we have a pretty good mix of small, 10 and undersized companies here, as well as much larger companies. There's a good number of 100 plus employee people in here as well. This is pretty good. This is pretty interesting, actually. One of the questions that we asked is, are you now currently, or do you plan on in the next 6 months using social media with your employees, with your clients, with your target market, or none of the above? So obviously right now the green piece is the target market. This orangey section here is existing clients, and smaller sections here are employees, and then about the same size of that is none. So that's what's in the room right now. With regard to the target market, it looked like about half of you were you focus on Memphis, and then there's probably another half of you that are more national or internationally focused as far as your market goes. So I kind of wonder, that's who's in here, but what about the rest of the world? And right now, just for the show of hands, how many of you have competition that's out there in the social sphere, that has competitors that have a social presence?
Obviously.
Okay. Now, so of those, how many of you are watching them? Watching what they're doing? Okay.
I can touch two hands.
But all right. Well, that's good. That's good. But you don't want to take up too much time watching what's going on. If watching what the other guy's doing is kind of taken away from you having a presence out there, also you're going to want to switch that around. The good news is nobody has all the answers on social. Right now, what's going on in social is you could pretty much look at it as an experiment, really. In industry and society as a whole, we're still trying to figure out how to use these tools. And while we're trying to figure out how to use them, they're making new ones. And so there's no end in sight at this point. So don't worry about not having all the answers. It's pretty much get a sense for things and try different things, see what works for you. and continue on that track and refine it before it gets outdated, because you're going to have to learn something else. Everything that you're learning now is going to go away, and you're going to have to pretty much relearn it all again. And that's kind of the mode that we're in. Depending on your industry, it's almost a career in learning, digesting, making good value out of these things that we learn before they become outdated and we have to go learn new stuff. That's going on all over the place. Definitely with social. One of the things that you need to realize is that people use or engage social media in a multitude of ways. Back in 2007, the good folks over at Forrester Research put together this social technographics ladder of participation. Woohoo! You know, I guess, you know, so it was a very impressive title. But anyway, this shows a ladder, and a ladder kind of implies an ascension from, you know, just getting started to mastery, so to speak. It really isn't this way, all right? But there's a couple of things that I want to point out on this. And there are actually two more rungs on the ladder, so to speak, that are not up here that I'll get to momentarily. But so what we have, one of the things that we have is creators. And these are people that are creating content and putting it out there. It may be creative content, it may be business type content, it may be the run-of-the-mill, you know, here's what I had for breakfast, I'm at the SOE Roundtable luncheon today, just, you know, what's going on. So you're creating content and you're putting it out there. That's actually a small percentage. Not a lot of people do that. Then there are critics who are commenting on those things that other people are putting out there. So they may not be creating their own, but gosh, it seems like a lot of people have something to say about other people's stuff. So that happens quite a bit. So there are the critics, there's collectors, joiners. The biggest piece of the pie that's out there is this thing called, that Forrester calls spectators. Other people call them lurkers. People who are just watching, fly on the wall type people who are there, they're in their conversations, they're in the room, so to speak, but they're not engaged with us. They're not having a piece of this conversation, but they're reading, they're watching, they're digesting all this stuff. They're just not participating, because not everybody is like that. And even sometimes if you are a creator of content, or if you're a critic, you sometimes, in certain situations, you may not have something to say, so sometimes you're also a lurker. This is the biggest piece of the pie. I say that and I bring that up because you have people who are paying attention to you whether you know it or not. So you can't count on how many fans you have on your Facebook page exactly, how many people are subscribed to your blog, how many followers you have on Twitter. Those are all, you know, pretty passive metrics actually. But you have a lot of people who are reading your information and sharing it even with other people, and you don't even know that you're putting out there. Now, obviously, if you're not putting anything out there, nobody's going to read it. You know, nobody's going to lurk on it. The other two rungs that are important are one that Charlene Lee, who used to be with Forrester when they put this thing together, is called. She's coined this term called the curator, and the curator is somebody who's actually taking and curating all this content that's being put out there. And so there could be somebody who's an aggregator, who's just a big fan of information, who is taking care of this stuff. In a sense, a lot of times when Pearson is adding information, or we add information also to the Society's Facebook page, we're curating in a sense there. That's our function, because we're finding other information out there that would be useful to the audience and sharing it and bringing it to you. So that's a curating type of function. The other function that is the other type of thing that's out there is a social burnout. And this is a phrase that's been coined by LunaWeb. Woo! Recently, because some people are they've had enough. You know, they've kind of gone overboard, they went too far, and now they've suffered somehow. They didn't know when to put it down, and they're not getting enough sleep, their family's not happy, work's not happy, they may have even lost their job. So there's social burnout. They have figured out, okay, I know and I understand now, I got it, where I fit in society, I understand what everybody's having for breakfast and how I fit into that, and it's all good. I've become one with the world, and I'm out of it. That's it. But then there's also the kind of burnout, the people who are participating, who are investing a lot of time, and they don't feel like they're getting a return out of that. All right. So on the All right. On this handout that's there's some definitions of social media. And you've heard many of them, and we just have two good ones here and then one that's kind of straggling along. And that is essentially social media are tools that people use to get the information from one another instead of the traditional institution. The traditional institution may be the government, it may be a salesperson, it may be your TV commercial or radio spot, and right now in this particular situation, it's me. Standing here in front of you, I am the traditional institution at this moment in this situation. And so you may have, some of you may have your marketing antibodies fired up and that's pumping through your blood right now. Well, I'm not giving you a pitch, just to let you know. So, you know, calm them down. The other definition there is that these social tools are used to create transparencies through where there's traditionally some barriers. And social tools help see through these walls, so to speak. So that's another good definition. And well, okay, the last couple on there is that social is actually a philosophy. We're going to get to that in a minute. And then it's also a shapeshifter. And I don't know, depending on what kind of TV programs or whatever you saw growing up, you know, shapeshifter may mean something different to you, but what it means to me is when you see something and the fog is cleared and then you think you got it all figured out, it realizes that it's been discovered and it's been figured out. And so it changes shape and molds back into the background. So you never really get to see it. I think there's probably a lot of horror flicks, you know, you see the shapeshifter creatures, you know, because they don't like to be discovered. Maybe it was an old Star Trek episode, I don't know. But social is that way because, you know, the creatures that we are, you know, we're miracles, right? And who's to say that I can get you all figured out and know how to pull all of your strings, you know, with 12 easy steps? It just doesn't happen. So shape shifting, when you think, you know, the more you've got the market figured out and you know how to use these tools, the very nature of it causes them to reshift, to change shape, because the marketing antibodies are flowing at full force and they've been discovered, and they will have to, you know, have to change shape. So there's where we're at with that. All right. The room is much more crowded than what I thought. All right. So we can't break up into groups, but the exercise that I had wanted to run into here, oh no, that's great, is who here has written LunaWeb a check? We would call you a client. You know? Okay. So there's three folks in here. Who here is, would you call, you're an acquaintance of mine. You know me from around. We're not like best longtime life friends or anything, but you know me. Okay. Okay, good deal. All right. Then so the rest of you, I'm a stranger. Perhaps. Okay? Okay. All right. So if you're a prospect and I'm talking to the stranger and you don't know me, today's the first time you meet, we may talk afterwards and I talk to you about what we do and we're going to put a proposal together for you. I get you the proposal, and while we're working on that, out of that group of people, you're going to want to verify some stuff, some claims actually that I'm making. You want to verify these claims that I'm making and I'm giving to you and I'm saying, here's what we can do for you. And so out of that crowd, you are going to go talk back. You may verify those claims with somebody who's already done business with me, our existing client base, because they've experienced the reality of what it's like to do business with us. You know, we've been through a process, we've went through a development, we've done things together, and so what they have to say is much more significant and influential than anything I could say. Because your marketing antibodies are up, and that is because it's just natural. It's just the way it is. And so you may, out of the three people in here that raised their hand, you may know one of those three. So you might go ask one of them, and you're going to feel you're going to gain a certain amount of confidence about what it is that they say. If you go ask one of my acquaintances, they say, okay, I've known Dave for 9 years. We've been in this group together, and we meet once a month, and he's a good guy. You know, you may not, that word of mouth is what I'm talking about here, the value that you assign my acquaintance is nowhere near the value that you would assign my existing client, you know. So it's not just word of mouth, it's not just a client or somebody else, the point is different people have different amounts of influence, who can influence your decision. And what happens is, if I tell you my claims, I lay them out on the table, here's what we do, and then you go to verify it, and what you find is something completely different than what I told you, then aha, I've been discovered, right? You know, I'm a sneaky sales guy. Because you suspected that something in your blood is just kind of, those antibodies have got you, got the suspicions up anyway, but when you verify something and it doesn't match what I'm saying, something's not right. You may care to get clarification from me. Hey, I talked to so-and-so and man, they didn't have a good, whatever, So or they may try and verify that with me and get clarification on that or not. They may just walk away at that point. And so when you start looking at these people, and the big emphasis lately with social media has been for the organizations to reach out to those strangers, people that you don't already know. And so there are so many people that we talk to all the time who have so little time. And they're taking this little bit of time that they have and they're trying to reach out to prospect and get new clients, when really they would get a better return if they focused on their existing client base, because you don't have unlimited time. You've only got a little bit. So whatever little bit you have, you want to gain the greatest return. And that you're going to get the greatest return by taking care of your existing clients and understanding what it is, what their reality is. Because I may think, let's say we get Pearson's site, we get it all launched and it's all good, and I think everything's great. Pearson's reality may have been, I don't know, she didn't like a color or something, who knows, right? But your reality is what's more important than mine. So I have to tune in to this reality. I have to hear the voice of the customer. And if you've been in business, a good while, maybe you've been around manufacturing, you've heard that term, voice of the customer. It's been around a good long time. It was a big focus of the 80s, and this is where the whole quality movement came along, and quality function deployment, and listening to the market instead of creating products and trying to cram them down the market's throat. So there was this thing going on where you heard like walk the talk, or you got to talk the walk. You got to do what you say. You got to do what you say you're going to do. This is an ISO 9000 type of thing. If you've been through that, you're familiar with it. But really, what it comes down to is you got to talk. I've got to say what it is that my clients think is the reality. That is the message that I need to be giving to my prospects. Well, first, I've got to tune into what that is. And it's not just my reality. So I have to use tools to talk to my existing client base. It could be focus groups. I could take them to lunch. It could be surveys, all kinds of things. And that's where a lot of the social tools are coming into play, or that can come into play, in that it's not just, social media is not just a sales and marketing medium. They can be used throughout the organization. So the exercise that we were going to run through also was to break into groups and say, okay, you're the manufacturing department. Here's what social can do. You're the legal department. You're human resources, and to come up with ideas on how you would use social tools, because they are implemented throughout the organization. And the problem that's going on right now, the biggest problem is so much hype is being generated out there, and people are creating businesses to respond to this hype. They're getting into social because everybody wants to know about it. It's this big mystery. So let's give them some answers. Let's give them 12 steps of stuff they need to be doing, right? And it's a big crock. So what's going to happen? You do the 12 steps. You're not going to be happy with it, and later on you might wind up putting it down. After you've expended some amount of energy on it. So in listening to, and you got to take this back. If you're going to, your message has to match the reality of your clients. It has to be in sync, because your clients, this whole join the conversation, your customers are out there talking to one another, they're using these social tools, they could be talking about you. You need to join the conversation. To me, that's a great big old scare tactic that some of these spinsters are using to get you to buy their stuff, to get you to roll into thing. There's too much hype on that. Don't fall for that. Although it's human nature too. You got to tune into the voice of the customer. I want to bring up a couple of texts that you guys are probably very familiar with. In The Kindness Revolution by Ed Horrell, he kind of lays out some guidelines. I don't want to call them steps at this point, because steps kind of imply a very discrete step one, with nice sharp corners. But really what you're doing, everybody in here knows you're in business, you're trying to instigate new programs. They get started a while, they kind of want to take a dip. It's a very curvy roller coaster kind of ride. It's not steps exactly. But Ed outlined some great steps in here about how to listen to the voice of the customer, identifying the problems, kind of prioritizing them, figuring out some fixes, and then getting back with your clients and going, hey, here's how I think we need to fix this problem. What do you think? Is this a good idea? Clients say, yay, try that, sounds good. And so you have to then set a bar, figure out where you're at, take a snapshot, and then you're going to measure to see, okay, are we getting better? Is there no effect? Or did we do something wrong and now things got worse? You're going to want to know how to do that. Then also, I don't know if you even saw him, everybody knows Michael Sink. He has a book called How to Create Customers as Loyal as Norm Peterson. This is the Cheers model of marketing. And this is all about taking care of your existing clients and tuning into them and creating special experiences based on each individual's special needs. It's both of them are great books. You need to kind of tune into them. Those are local guys. Both of these books predated social, all right? But we have to kind of take a step back and go back to basics. Michael Sink put one of his statements in here. It goes something like, this stuff is just so obvious, but we've kind of ignored it for years. We've forgotten these basic tools that we need to be doing, basic things that we need to be doing in our businesses and our organizations. And that's where you also need to take advantage of using these social tools. Your first stop should not be to use social to go out and gain market share. You will come back fruitless and frustrated from trying to do that if your house isn't in order first and taking care of what you got going on. All right, so those people that are getting frustrated on there, they are walking away from social because, they proved it to themselves. It was all smoke and mirrors, and by golly, I was right. After I've spent how many hours on it and, contracted out something else to have done. One more book is called The Clue Train Manifesto. Anybody heard of it? Okay. This is actually the 10th edition. They've kind of updated it. The first edition was a little bit ahead of its time, or a lot of bit ahead of its time. It came out, 10 years ago. But in here, they were kind of poking fun at the spinsters, the spinmeisters, and sorry, what they had is they called it the 12-step program for internet business success. And here they just left it very general. They call it relax, have a sense of humor, find your voice and use it, tell the truth, don't panic, enjoy yourself, be brave, be curious, play more, dream always, and listen up. All right? But they'll go on to say, some of these 12-step things, formulas that are out there are akin to 100 ways to pick up hot chicks and radical dudes. But the thing is, as people, we yearn for this easy advice. We want that. And there are people out there spinning it and putting it together for you and delivering it because that's what you want. Doesn't mean that it's right. So be very careful. Be very, very, very careful with that. In looking at this conversation out there and how marketers can game it, this is a blog post that somebody in town posted a link to here recently. It was about search engine optimization. But down here at the bottom, I want to recount something to you guys so that you can be looking out for this. And it's going to ultimately come into play in this whole social thing. And that is, spreading the word is often just as important, or more so, than being right, being honest, or being valuable. It's like, hey, buddy, So there are people out there showing other people how to how to deceive you, and how to come up with blog posts who look like it's your customers using your stuff and talking about how great it is, using their stuff, actually, strangers. And that's why some people feel very confident that we're going to get down to a point where some of the stuff goes back to Laura Ingalls Wilder and the Little House on the Prairie, and that technology isn't really allowing us to communicate with this mass communications. As we use it and we start connecting more and more and more in our communities, we're actually becoming more and more small town like, because we're able to figure out we know who's running the general store. You know, we're able to communicate with one another on that level. And those kinds of things like that are going to make that happen. Because then you're going to want to have verification that this person is actually a real human being to start out with. Because it's very easy to go make up a person and create a profile for them and then start blogging, you know, right now. So you're going to want, you're going to want to have some sense for who this person is. People are looking for all the shortcuts, and you need to have your marketing antibodies, on, Now, obviously, if you know the person, that's a huge difference. All right. So really, when you start thinking about this, social is a philosophy, all right? It's not, there's social media, those are tools. But really, this whole social approach and listening to people and creating these transparencies is a philosophy that it's a film that gets applied through your whole entire business. All right. So you say, okay, what are some of these tools? These are like wikis. You can go use a website called Wet Paint and create your own wiki. These are blogs. There's easy blogs to use like Blogspot. There's much more complicated blogs to be using out there too, like WordPress. Although it's not that complicated, a lot of people do it. But there's this new one out there now called Posterous. And we're kind of loving it, really. Posterous. Posterous.com. And all you have to do is create an email and send the email to Posterous, and boom, it posts on that blog, on that structure. It's so easy. And if you want a photo to show up in the blog, you just attach the photo to the email. You just email this. It makes a special email address for you. It's pretty easy. I haven't found anything easier than that. It's pretty awesome. You can attach other files like PDFs and stuff like that, and it'll link right straight to them. So Posterous.com. It's a newer one that's out there, and if you're out there in the social sphere, you may have heard of it, or you may see people posting links to their Posterous blogs. So then there's discussion forums. Discussion forums have been around. Discussion forums predate the web. There's the internet as the whole. Part of it is the web. Discussion forums is a huge social tool that you can use to let people interact and have discussions. We use kind of an old format, this SurveyMonkey, to get the survey out to hear back from you, but you guys didn't get to interact with one another. Given more time, each one of those questions from the survey could have been posted in a discussion forum, and it could have incited discussions and different posts from one another in there. So discussion forums is a huge social tool. It's not very complex. It's even older than the web. And so those are tools that you could use also within your organization. Then there's microblogs and then chat features. All right. And I'm getting the watch tap. So, all right. No. That's fine. We do have some other. There's one last thing, and I'm going to do the Q&A. All right. Who here uses Blue Sky Couriers? Great. All right. They have fans. There's people love using Blue Sky. But they're not yet out on Facebook. But here is a sitemap of the website that we're working on with Blue Sky. They've got their traditional website over here, the About Us page, the services and that kind of thing. But we're using a blog to take care of the news functionality. The President's Corner, he wants to have a place where he talks. And we're using Facebook for the photo gallery, and then Facebook also for the fan page updates. So what I'm going to do here is this right here. Here's a website. It's a great website. You should check it out. This little piece right here is called this Facebook widget. So, seeing that I'm out of time, and if I can leave you with one like really, really juicy bit of stuff, it's this Facebook widget. You have to have a Facebook page first before you can have this widget. But once you have this widget and you get the code and you give it to your webmaster and you have them plug it into your site, then when you go make updates on Facebook, and the society is going to have, we're building this feature into the new design, you make an update on your fan page in Facebook, and then instantly it shows up on your website. And this is, it's a big deal. It's very elementary right now. You can't customize it. You can't change the colors and make it look like the rest of your website. So if you're very design-centric, you're going to hate it. But it's got massive utility, and it's very easy to use. And so you can be updating your actual website a couple times a day, once an hour, however often you want to do this. You don't want to do it once an hour, but you know, once a day, a couple times a day, it could be good. With this information, you know, reaching out to your existing clients, pointing out things that are of interest to your fan base, cheering people who other businesses that you know, or and we posted yesterday that, hey, for $250 million, we're all pitching in for the lottery at LunaWeb, and boom, that showed up on the Facebook page. If I made a video right now and posted it onto our fan page, within moments it's going to be on our website as well. It's a big thing. You really want to check it out. So there's a golden nugget to take away from here, and I don't know if I'm out of time. We have to do Q&A afterwards, or dismiss, or what?
I think that, he's okay. I just wanted to make sure that everybody gets questions asked. So if somebody has to go, they can always do that too. Okay. You had the fan page for somebody on there. So somebody that had never seen one on Facebook, could you? Right.
Okay. The bigger platforms that are out there right now are Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's a big one. This is a fan page of ours, and the widget that you saw on our website comes from this section of the fan page. It's just made narrower to fit on our website. And these are all just little updates. So we posted in there that this is a snapshot from our third social workshop that we had for our clients. We had here at the Crescent Center. We just took a picture of it and tossed it up there. Well, we do that to let some of our clients know, hey, we have these workshops, but then also let other people know, hey, we have workshops for our clients on this social stuff, trying to take care of our own. And so then here's Chris Allen, who he made a comment on it about he'd like to attend. And so we can interact with him on Facebook. Now Chris's comment does not show up on our website. When you use the widget, the only thing that gets pulled over to your website is the stuff that you yourself put out there. You don't want somebody driving by and making a mess on your on your stuff. All right. It's a Facebook, yeah. If you have a fan page, look over in the left-hand menu once you're logged into your page, and you'll see an option there for the link that'll generate the code for you. Or you can do, like if you were one of our clients, we'd either made your page for you, or you would make us an administrator, and then we could log in and then get that code. Okay. Yeah, so in case some people here have not seen Twitter, here's what it looks like. Should not be your first stop. If you've only got time for one thing, go to Facebook. That pie chart that we looked at the very beginning should be indicative of why you would want to stop there first. If you only have a place for one. LinkedIn, if you're already on LinkedIn, a lot of people are on LinkedIn. I think the biggest opportunity for everybody right now on LinkedIn is no doubt you are a member of some groups. And there may be some dead groups that there's not a conversation going on there. But as soon as you post something, then there are a lot of the people that may be in that group will get that message in an email at the end of the week in a summary of posts. So there's a huge opportunity right now to interact with groups on LinkedIn. If you're already there and you're kind of wondering how to get more out of it, look at the groups to take advantage of what's going on there, as well as the answers section. Right? There's some people right now who are trying to get recommendations on LinkedIn. Some people are downplaying that heavy because they know it's gamed. It's like, oh, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, I'll write your recommendation, okay, you write one for me, and we'll tell each other that we're wonderful and everybody will see it, and you know, it's kind of gamed now. So don't push that thing too hard. I'm thinking about making my recommendations that I have to do is like maybe over on my blog and maybe just doing a video, because I hate to write. Make it a video and just talking to the camera, here's what I think about Pearson, you know, and here's what it's like to work with her, and you know. And then just put a link in my recommendation to that. That's one thought that I have. You may not know this. There's now a directory. There are directories now inside of LinkedIn for companies. And so there's Memphis, and then it breaks it down into the different types of industries. Make sure your business is in there. All right. Widget. Internally. Okay, Twitter, you've heard of it, you kind of know what it's about. It's this crazy thing. Nobody that I've ever talked about Twitter and told them what it was, nobody's ever gone, wow, what a great idea. Nobody has said that. But gosh, people find utility in it. And you find utility in the outside world. Well, there are a couple of enterprise microblogging tools that are out there. One of them that we use at LunaWeb right now is called Yammer. This is what Yammer looks like. It looks kind of like Twitter with some different colors on it. It's a microblogging thing that we just use inside of LunaWeb. It's like, well, gosh, you know, LunaWeb's is 10 people. Why do you need this? You know, if you're in a relationship with anybody, you know sometimes you can get off the same page, you know, and so it helps to communicate. So this is a free tool right now. We've been using it not quite a year, and it serves as kind of gluing things together. Sometimes we'll cut up on it and be kidding around, but it also helps other people keep other people informed about what they're working on. So check that out for your own business. Yammer, it's interesting. They have a competition now called SocialCast. It's at socialcast.com. Yammer is at yammer.com. SocialCast looks like this. It's a much richer experience. You can have collaborative bookmarking. So I can, if I see sites, I can bookmark it and share my bookmarks with just my organization, just people at LunaWeb. Instead of stumble upon, where if I bookmark something, I'm sharing it with my friends, but I'm also, if I got competition who's watching everything I'm sharing, they're checking it out too. So this is could be a nice alternative for that. And then there's this thing out there called Ning, N-I-N-G, and they have a it's a place where you can go and build your own social network for your own audience. And so you could build one for just your employees only. You could build one for you and your clients. The downside is it's another social network. You know, it's one more place where people have to go logging into. But at the same time, it's this nice area that you've got roped off. It's private if you want to have it that way and have private conversations with your clients. Because you know your competition can become a fan of yours out there on Facebook. That's very public, and that's good. And we kind of have to get over that. It can be a little scary. We put together this thing called the Social Media Expedition. One of the reasons that we did that is because too much of the conversation was focused on using social media in business, and actually we like to refer to social media as kind of a whole life application. It's not just for work. You know, people are using it to connect with their families, their churches, their neighbors. It's not just a work thing. And so we've got this expedition. We meet once a month. It's the first Wednesday at 7:30 in the morning for a couple hours, and then we also get together once a month in the evening, and we call that Twilight Camp. But if you're interested in that, there's an address on the sheet of paper, or you can go to socialmediaexpedition.com. We will be changing the name of it soon. We did register both domain names to the Social Expedition. You're going to find that the people who have been in this industry for a while are going to start dropping the term media and start talking about social, just social. You know, like I would tweet that I am giving a social presentation. That's not necessarily on media. But a lot of people who are still new to the game call it social media, so you'll see the name kind of linger there for a while, but it's slowly going away. So, hey, we're your classic web design type shop. but what we also do is try and stay ahead of the curve, and this is obviously for the last couple of years we've been talking about social, what's going on, and that's become a part of the Luna Web pie, part of what we do out there, because part of having a web presence anymore these days includes having a social presence out there on the social web. And you hear that's another term that you hear out there as well. So with that, we blazed it through some things there at the end. I'm not running off. I know we're like 10 minutes past 1 here, so.
Well, does anybody have any burning questions before we do go? Okay, Kimberly?
I'm curious if there's an opinion on best practices about maybe kind of crossing the line on social networking sites with business. Chit chat with your friends, and then all of a sudden your friends were selling something, kind of start flagging that. So there's kind of guidelines for that you want to
There's really not any official guidelines. There's no technically wrong way to do it. But there are ways that are more received than others, and so if you're using social tools to just get out there and broadcast, just to go blast your message out there, that's not going to be as well received as what you hear this term about the conversation. And now the people who are talking about the conversation, who have been at it for a while, are now starting to talk about the relationship. So it's not just chitter chatter, but it's also actually forming a relationship. But I would stay away from the broadcast thing. If you're familiar with Facebook, Facebook has some built-in tools to where if you're just broadcasting your message all the time, your fans can, with one click, hide you. They'll still be a fan, but they're not going to see your messaging anymore. They can do that as a friend as well. So if you've got friends and you're trying to market to your friends and you're not blasting your stuff to your buddies, they can hide you too. And they'll still be your friend on Facebook, and you won't know that they've hidden your messages from them. So it's very good to throttle that back and to not do it as a broadcast medium. Those are some guidelines. And speaking of guidelines, as business owners, one of the things that you must be doing right now is developing guidelines, social media, social usage guidelines for your employees. You're going to have to make it a special chapter of your employee handbook so that you can set the expectations about how your employees can be using these social networks, because they're using them, I promise you. And you want to say, okay, here's the acceptable guidelines, and set the expectation rather than waiting on an incident to occur and trying to re-engineer it after something's already happened. That's so difficult. So you want to do that. And if you don't have a manual, at least come up with some kind of guidelines for using social so that you can set that expectation.
There was an article in the paper within the last couple of weeks, a guy saying that the social media was the way that a lot of nonprofits were going to raise money.
Yes.
And I'm sort of looking at that as a marketing technique, but what is the way to do that without offending people?
Well, I think, depending on the nonprofit, I was talking to the folks over at the Grizzlies Foundation yesterday, and they look for volunteers. And there's a certain reward that you get for volunteering. There's this intrinsic reward of being a part of the community and helping somebody out. And so they're very much like what we're talking about. You want to use the people who are your client base, your donor base, depending on what you've got going on. You want to engage them and understand from them, just like kind of treat them like customers and figure out, okay, how can you do better? What's it like? And identify what some of the barriers are to participation as a donor, and use those donors to talk through publicly those barriers, and use their voices and take video of them, not the people in the organization, but the donors, because they have more influence and it's more genuine, and you can be very public with that. You stand to gain a lot more about getting your message out and educate them about getting the message out, because they're your best sales force, so to speak. There's also some great tools inside of Facebook for charitable nonprofits that are free to use for taking micro donations. It's fantastic. Facebook really is, although they are turning to business. They've got to make money. They got to do stuff to keep the lights on there. But they are very, very interested in making sure that it doesn't turn into this business-only realm, because they're going to scare all the people off if they do that. So they're very much looking at society and humanity, and have some great tools in there to support causes. That's where that's at.
Which website give more optimized results, LinkedIn or Facebook? Which one is better?
You know, really, okay, so which social network is best for you? It's going to give you the best results.
Yeah.
You know, one, you want to have good metrics in. If you're trying to send people to your website, you know, you want to understand where the traffic is coming from and where the conversions are, where your client base is coming from. But at the same time, you want to understand where your target market is. So if you're connecting with your target market on LinkedIn, but not on Facebook, then the answer to your question is going to be LinkedIn, and not Facebook. And it may never be Facebook. So you really have to take a look at where your people are. And it's one of the sayings they have here's fish where the fish are. You know, so go to where they hang out. Because all of a sudden now, for the first time, people are hanging out on the web in places on these websites, whereas before, you know, 10 years ago, you were on the web, you were just there. There was no place to hang out. But now all of a sudden people are congregating. So it's like colonizing, so to speak, and having a presence over in a shopping mall, you know, where you still have headquarters over here, but you have an outlet in this mall. It's that kind of mentality. And if your market's in that mall, then you want to have a presence there. But if they're not there, like if they're not in Facebook, you know, focus on LinkedIn. And that can all change. You know, if you go out there and evaluate a social network today, and you get it all figured out. You're going to spend the weekend. I want to figure out Facebook and know what it does. 3 months from now, I'm sorry, it's going to be different. You know? It changes. So something you may write off today, if you're analyzing it and seeing if it's going to be any good for your business, 3 months or 6 months from now, that it may change. That story may change. You may have to take a second look at it, because all these platforms are out there evolving continuously. I'm not running off.
Thank
we
you
got to go.
I appreciate it very much.